welcome back to Vassals of Kingsgrave for episode 88 of our Linear ReRead Through a Song of Ice and Fire, where we read the books in linear order, date, and time. We are at the end of Feast for Crows here, which is amazing, 88 episodes in. It'll be all dance from here out until the Winds, and we might incorporate some of the Winds of Winter chapters here. We'll see. This episode is a pretty tight episode. It takes place from May 20th to May 21st of 300, covering Jaime VII from A Feast of Crows, Arya I / The Blind Girl from Dance of Dragons, and Sam 5, the very end of Feast for Crows, with Sam arriving in Old Town. My name is Adam, also known as drownedsnow in the Podcast of Ice and Fire forums, and I am joined by a crew of vassals, including...
Hey, this is Matt, Varley on the forums.
Hi, this is Sarah, also known as Lady Weaver on the forums.
Orale, this is Zander, or the Lord Baron on the forums.
Hey, this is Michael, Khal Wadege on the forums.
Awesome, all right. Thank you guys for joining us today. We might be joined by one or two other surprise vassals. We'll see. Let's start with Jaime VII of A Feast for Crows. This is the Narrow Hips chapter, as I like to call it, that spawned 1,000 theories of Jane Westerling's baby, which George doesn't seem to be into, but will still totally happen. And I believe, Sarah, you've got a recap for us?
Yes, a recap. Not my recap, but a recap, yes.
Due to technical difficulties, Sarah's amazing recap has been lost to the ether, but she still has a recap for us.
Thank you, Internet. You are my savior. Okay. Aemon Frey, now Lord of Riverrun, in fact, as well as name, demands Edmure Tully's head. Sir Jaime will not accede, though he is sorely tempted since Edmure betrayed his concessions by helping his uncle, Sir Brynden, to escape the castle when he turned it over to the Lannisters. Despite a search for Lord Hoster's brother, Jaime knows the Blackfish will not be found, nor will he abandon the fight. Before being escorted west to Casterly Rock as a noble prisoner, Sir Edmure speaks his mind. You will never know how sick it makes me to see you in this room, Kingslayer. You will never know how much I despise you. Later, Lady Sybil Westerling and her daughter, the widowed Queen Jane Stark, are brought before Jaime. Jane is in mourning for her husband and defiant to her mother, but when Sybil moves to slap her, Jaime intervenes and asks Jane to leave the Solar. Jaime confirms to Lady Sybil that House Westerling has its pardon. Her brother has been named Lord of Castamere and marriages will be arranged for her daughters, although Jane will have to wait 2 years before marrying again to prevent rumours that any children she has are Robb Starks. Jaime is asked to inquire after Lady Sybil's son, Sir Reynold, who accompanied Robb to the twins and had no knowledge of the arrangement between his mother and Tywin Lannister. Jaime is suspecting that Reynold is dead, as Walder Frey also didn't know of the arrangement, agrees to inquire, promising that House Lannister will pay his ransom if Reynold is held captive. She then mentions that Lord Tywin had promised a highborn marriage for him, and that Reynold should have Joy of him. When Jaime states that Joy is his uncle Gyrion's natural daughter, a bastard, Sybil shouts, "You want a Westerling to marry a bastard?" Jaime retorts, No more than I want Joy to marry the son of some scheming turn-cloak bitch. Your daughter is worth 10 of you, my lady. You'll leave with Edmure and Sir Fawley on the morrow. Until then, you would do well to stay out of my sight. And he wonders how much Lord Gawain Westerling knows of his wife's schemes. Sir Fawley Prester, the following morning, is the head of the guard that will see Sir Edmure Tully and the Westerlings to Castle Rock. Jaime tells him to guard Sir Edmure and Jane well, for fear that the Blackfish or Beric Dondarrion will try to free them. The knight is aware of his orders to kill Edmure should he try to slip away, and Jaime adds he should do the same for Jane Stark, as she is twice as dangerous as Edmure should she escape. Jaime then visits Edwin Frey, who is preparing his army to return to the twins. Edwin tells Jaime that his father, Sir Ryman, along with the entire retinue that Sir Ryman was hanging with, were hanged by Lady Stoneheart near Fairmarket. Although Edwin blames Jaime, the Lord Commander is well aware that Edwin couldn't care less that his father is dead. And although Edwin is now heir to the twins, Jaime knows that Black Walder will probably soon move to kill his brother. Jaime's only real concern is that the outlaws must be getting bolder if they are willing to kill Lord Walder's heir only a day's ride from the twins. Jaime takes his leave after inquiring about Sir Rionald's fate. Apparently, Queen Jane's brother will be responsible for loosing... Apparently, Jane Westerling's brother was responsible for loosing Grey Wind on the Freys and was shot full of quarrels before diving into the river. An offhand comment from Jaime about killing those responsible makes the Freys drop their smug attitude about it. Jaime is content that he has taken River Run without having to take arms against Tullys or Starks. He later agrees to allow Sir Desmond Grell and Sir Robin Rygar to take the Black, commanding Raff the Sweetling to escort them to Maidenpool. During Lord Emmond's speech to the people of River Run, Jaime speaks with the singer he took from Ryman Frey earlier. The singer reveals himself as Tom of Seven Streams and tells Jaime that he hopes to play for Lady Jenna and Lord Emmon over winter. That night, Jaime dreams of his mother, Lady Joanna, whom he barely remembers, but the dream disturbs him when his mother cries and asks who he really is. In the morning, Maester Vyman delivers Cersei's message written by Qyburn. The old Maester asks if Jaime wishes to respond, but the King's Guard hands the letter to Peck, saying, "No, put this in the fire."
Dun 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 dun.
There's a lot of dun-dun-dun-duns, huh? I forgot that Thomas Seven Streams was going to...
I know, right? Thomas
I know.
Sevens. Shit.
Like, I was reading it, and I'm just like for this one, and I'm just like, hey. That's like Brotherhood without banners. Like, I don't want to be in River Run over winter.
I like how they still think it's Beric Dondarrion attacking.
I know. That's, yeah.
Who else would it be, Matt?
Well, no, because they mentioned Lady Stoneheart too.
She doesn't exist, remember?
Yeah, yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
And then the Knight of Seashells, he's badass.
Yeah, the Knight of Seashells, that's right. Freaking A, man. All the good phrase.
Whenever I hear it, I just think he's wearing like one of the 90s chokers they always wore. Like,
Where's
the man, like,
the seashore? Yeah. He's a 90s bro with spiked tips and a puka shell necklace.
Yes,
Yeah.
And he's a total badass.
He was trying to say bye to those phrase. Yeah, this is a great chapter. We get, more information from the Red Wedding. We see more of Jaime kind of breaking from Cersei and also trying to keep his vow. Like, there's a whole lot of complicated emotions going on with Jaime here. Actual character development, which is great. But also, he's still a dick. I mean, that hasn't really changed. So,
are we doing preview chapter spoilers?
Yeah.
Well, being as vague as possible, Raff the Sweetling shows up in one of the preview chapters, but here he's being sent to Maidenpool, and that's a long way away from where he shows up later. Like, I'm interested to see where he goes later.
Maidenpool.
Because he was the Bloody Mummers. I'm surprised there's, any of them still around.
And not Bloody
I'm
Mummers,
surprised
I think
that
he was the
Jaime
Mountains
sends
Men.
him off.
Oh, that's right, the Mountains Men. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Jaime was just like, oh yeah, Raff the Sweetling, sure, you can be in charge of 2 prisoners and take them to Maidenpool. I'd be like,
Right, and
was he just trying to get rid of him?
Well, no, because I think like in the chapter I covered a long time ago, like he's such a monster in Arya's chapters, like I think in Clash, but like he's in a stream playing like what's it called when you get a girl on your shoulders in a pool and they're fucking fighting each other?
Chicken,
yes. They're playing chicken in the stream, and it's just like, oh yeah, he's just like a normal soldier, even though, like, through Arya's accounts, like, you see him do awful things as part of the Mountains Men.
I know.
He was just following orders. I guess
it's a matter of perspective. Yeah, and as well, like, how much does Jaime actually know that Raff the Sweetling is accountable for.
Oh yeah, like they weren't like putting their war crimes like, on their tunics and being like, here's what I did today, for everyone to see. Like they were clearly out like raping and pillaging, kind of under the cover of the Riverlands. Yeah, like I mean, like everyone around
bloody mothers
would
did
know
it,
what
not
happened,
me.
but yeah.
Motherfucker killed Lonnie.
Just like the mountain killing Ilya and her children, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, everyone kind of knows they did it because that's kind of like high grade, but at the same time, it's like we didn't do that.
Who believed the narrow hips theory or whatever before it was debunked by George?
But is it really debunked, or is he just saying that? Dun dun dun.
I
still believe it.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm torn on it because if you read the stuff in the chapter,
Jane is having a baby and Rickon is going to be king in the north. That's my official take.
How stupid is Jaime Lannister that she can't marry for 2 years? Does he know how long a baby takes to get out?
No, but
that's what I was thinking.
He knows
that's why
information breakdown, and that like dumbass small folk will be like, "Duh, it's Robb Stark's baby," because they're stupid.
Right? Yeah, because even if she has a baby like a year and a half from now, people could be like, "Oh, well, we're just getting the news. They don't really understand the timeline." Yeah, I could see that.
But I feel like it's more
to be safe. But mind you, she could be sleeping with someone now and get pregnant. Like,
right.
You might wait to marry. That doesn't stop her from sleeping around or sleeping with anyone.
Yeah, she could easily just get pregnant now from anyone and be like Robb's baby. Yeah. But I hope that she has Robb's baby. I don't think he intended that. I mean, from what he said, I don't think he was like trying to throw us off or anything. But maybe he puts that in there. I don't know. It's either way. It's not significant to the current conflict. Like the kids.
Oh.
If there's a kid, it's not going to do anything. So.
With this, there is the whole theory that it wasn't Jane in the room, that it was someone else, which I looked at the ages of her and her sister. So Jane was 16 in Storm of Swords, and her sister was 12, right? And this is how long after that?
Narrow hips.
Like a year?
I don't even think it's a year.
Okay.
I mean, we are doing the linear reread, so there is a timeline somewhere that we're following.
Oh yeah, we're currently here in May, and Joffrey dies on New Year's, right? And the Red Wedding was a couple months before that, so you're talking maybe 9 months or something. Like I'd have to look at the timeline.
But that is the narrow hips theory, that the sister was there instead of Jane because of the hip difference.
So she'd be 12, 13, the sister, and Jaime is commenting this chapter is 15, no more, like at maximum 15, 16, and Jane is supposed to be 16 in Storm of Swords, so maybe 17. So like, I know I looked older, younger, so it could be the
was
younger
she older
sister,
than Robb?
Robb was 15 in Storm of Swords, and it says that Jane was 16. So, yes.
Good for Robb.
The Red Wedding takes place in December, so it's like 6 months.
So, 12 and a half.
But I mean, I like the theory because of the whole switching sisters thing. I think that's intriguing. Like the Blackfish gets away and all that. But other than that,
Jaime describes Elena in this chapter as Jaime describes Jane in this chapter, Jesus, as being awkward, which you'd think of more as a younger teenager, not a 16-year-old, which I think fits more with the younger sister.
So what exactly is the theory? I know that it's basically that it's not actually Jane Westerling and that maybe the Blackfish snuck her out when he snuck out. Is that basically it?
Basically, pretty that's much it. And that Jane is pregnant with Robb Stark's child.
And that's why.
So she's fled, Yeah,
and Jaime in this chapter thinks that the worst thing, the most dangerous thing, would be if Jane's pregnant in this chapter, which, like, smoking gun, if you think it might actually happen. So.
Right. So, I mean, the fact that, like, George kind of hangs a lantern on, like, that as, like, a possibility. And then, the narrow hips thing, which he says is just, oops, writing is hard and it's hard to keep up with this stuff. I can buy that. And also, I mean, here, Jaime, that's a natural thought for Jaime to have, I think. That's why it's written down. Because he doesn't know, Bran and Rickon are still alive.
Reading this Jane, or the character that appears, she comes across very much as like the grieving widow, and like in contrast to the mother, which is like a scheming bitch. Like Jaime does say, your daughter is worth 10 times of you, or whatever. So I always thought that she was very genuine, and that it was genuinely Jane. If it was someone else, there would be a few more clues written in there. Like maybe she wasn't crying as effectively or convincingly.
I think her behavior definitely fits the grieving widow, but I think her description fits the younger sister. That's what I think. So it might just be George literally screwed up writing the descriptions, but Jane's behavior in this, the character's behavior, I think in this whole chapter does fit more with the actually Jane grieving widow. But I also think, like, man, the mom's such a bitch and is just beating her daughter around, which also makes me think, is that actually her daughter and not just some other random girl?
And it's crazy how, like,
she
the
would
mom even let
slap
her marry Rob in the first place. I mean, the mom is just terrible.
Yeah, I wonder how much she had to do with the Red Wedding and, like, the planning of it. Like,
I really wish we find out, because, like, I don't even know what the terms of the agreement between her and Tywin were. Was it just that she was going to give moon tea to her daughter, or was she going to plant Jane in there when Rob was injured? Like, yeah, lots of ambiguity.
Yeah, I'd like more detail on that.
Guys, if we could just get wins, that would be great.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Be super. Yes. Hey, George, I'm going to need you to write on Saturday.
I have questions.
No, it's more just, George, can you just write like 3 hours a day? Because I have a feeling he writes a lot less. But just consistently.
I think that old WordPerfect machine or whatever it is he uses probably needs a break after like 30 minutes of writing.
It overheats.
Yeah. So one thing I will say is, like, I never really call her Jane Stark. I still always call her Jane Westerling. Like,
Same.
That's something I noticed. Like,
that was the recap I was reading, called her Jane Stark, and I'm just like, oof, I don't like it.
Like, I mean, we call, Catelyn, like, even gets referred to as, Tully sometimes, but, like, they're sort of interchangeable. But I guess it's sort of like a Cersei situation where, like, I've never called her Cersei Baratheon. Like,
but also it's more like, who does that character identify with most as being most? I think Catelyn does identify with both now, being a Stark and a Tully after her time.
And even if Jane was pregnant, like, the Stark cause is lost. Like, the Northmen are defeated, like, all slaughtered at the Red Wedding, or, allied with the Lannisters. What, even if she was pregnant, what is the harm there?
Yeah, I feel it takes some wind out of the Red Wedding if, it's okay, Rob gets to have a son or a daughter or whatever. His line continues. I feel like the Red Wedding needs to be as awful as possible to have that impact.
And as well, I think it's more in like 15, 20 years, I think is the thing. In 15, 20 years, when that kid's an adult, they might have a rebellion against them, which I think is one of the big thinking points. So that's once everyone has had children and repopulated, all of those children will go and fight for them.
And this is always the issue with the end of a war with this, is because of the system of government you have. You have to, like, okay, we're going to kill that guy, but, his family, slap on the wrist, and this guy over here, maybe we'll raise him up a little because he helped us, but that guy over there rebelled against us. He bends the knee. He's fine. So you end up having like, you know, kind of enemies all over, because you can't just like, you know, scorched earth, get rid of all of them. Then like, who's your lords? Who understands the land? Who can manage the people? And that leads to this, you know, sense of, you know, 10 years later, 20 years later, you've got these bitter rivalries. But, you know, I mean, the Reigns of Castamere style is just like, oh, fuck them, kill them all.
It also diminishes.
Like, no one has the land.
It also diminishes the authority of lords to just wipe out a house and then be like, oh, well, who wants to take it next? Like, and then even in the eyes of the small folk, I feel like, you know, if the lord can be removed just as easy as they can, what makes them better? And it kind of erodes the system of
right. It makes it so their station is not what you want it to be to the small folk. Also, it I think ferments the seeds of rebellion more if you do that, because if the punishment is like just going to be like, we're just killing everyone and like you're so cruel, it's like, well, we've got to get this guy out. We know, right. We got to go back to a king that'll forgive us when we rebel.
And as well, if people know that they will definitely all be killed if they do rebel, it does mean that they won't care about whether or not they die doing it, so they'll do more risky acts. Whereas if there is a chance that they will be pardoned or their family will be pardoned, that sort of thing.
They don't fight to the last man sort of thing. They give up
you're
when
less
the cause
likely
is lost.
to have that. They will surrender. And as well, it does mean that in the future, you have the possibility of actually having a house that will actually support you and become very close to you. And there's also the trick of marrying. So if you conquer someone, you marry into their house or have them marry into your house. So it combines the houses and it's less likely to spark a rebellion later on.
Ned Stark has a line in a Game of Thrones, and it's like, there is no foe as dangerous as one who knows his own death. And I think this comes up when they're dealing with the Night's Watch deserters that are trying to kill Bran. But yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So what do we want to say about the end of this chapter here and the letter that Jaime gets? Because at this point, his relationship with Cersei has been kind of cold. And he's just like, fuck it, burn the letter, you know. And she's obviously just trying to manipulate him because she's like, everyone's against me here in King's Landing. I need somebody.
Come save me, brother, save me. I want you. I need you.
Interpretation is pretty clear. He's just like, fuck you. You know, you've made your problems. You've made your bed. Now you can lie in it.
And I love the maester that's like, sorry, I read it. I read your incest note.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that it's indicative of his story arc, and I think in his next chapter he goes off to Brienne, or maybe it's a Cersei chapter that she hears that they went off to Brienne, and I think that is more in line with his character arc. The way it's going is denying Cersei and being open towards other avenues of loyalty.
I think it's kind of ironic that this letter comes after him, I think it was the previous night, wanting to go back and see Tommen and be there for him and be his dad and act as his dad. Like, and the next day he gets this letter from Cersei and he's just like, fuck you, bitch. Piss off. You won't let me be a father. You won't let me be your husband, but you want me to come back and save you? Like, nah, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause she's thinking like, hey, Jaime can do the trial by combat thing for me.
Which is basically really death.
A great idea.
Right? It's death for both of them if he does it. That's the thing.
Oh,
like,
left-handed.
He lost his sword hand. Sorry, but
I mean, because what does he say in this chapter that like if he practices long enough, he'll get as good as what's his name? Who's like not that great.
Pretty
but
sure wasn't it as good as Peck, his squire? I think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So it's like you know, he's like I can be competent. And I love this is one thing I do miss on the show because like Ilan Payne's actor died and they had to replace these training scenes, which worked out, but like the the mute Ilan Payne with his like clicking laughing, and it's kind of great. It's basically Jaime just talking to himself.
Jaime's favorite type of companion.
Himself.
He even says to Ilan
Yeah.
Payne, "Oh, you talk too much." Yeah.
Which was a great line. But I feel like Ilan Payne would kill the Lannisters in a heartbeat if he had the opportunity, right?
But he doesn't
just
kill
give
Jaime,
any
though.
fucks.
And like Jaime would be easy to kill, especially now.
No, I don't think like he like wants revenge or wants to kill the Lannisters necessarily. I just think that like if there was a new king or something and they were like take his heads, he'd be like, yeah, he'd like be totally into it, you know?
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, I don't think he minds Jaime. I think he would for Cersei and Tywin, probably if Tywin was alive. Hey, phone, how you doing? But I think doing this with Jaime, and they've both lost something. Ilan Payne his tongue, Jaime his hand, and coming to terms with how to deal without that. There probably is some sort of bond there, possibly. So,
Right.
I don't know. And he's spending a lot of time with him. Mind you, he does get to beat him like every day at fighting and like mock killing him. So that'd make you feel a bit better too. Just like, yeah.
It is mentioned that whatever Ilan Payne used to be when he was Tywin's captain of the guards, now that he's lost his tongue, he is just the executioner. Like, that is just his life. So I imagine he's got a very, like... He doesn't have any hobbies or anything, or attachments to people.
Well, he just keeps the heads,
Could you imagine
well preserved in his
have a
room.
hobby? No, he might bring his knitting with him on his travels and then like relaxes at night, does some knitting. It'd be fun.
I think Ilan Payne is more of a crochet person.
Well, they show his like cell, don't they? And Jaime's like, it stinks of like shit and trash and wine, and the only thing he takes care of is his sword.
That's just
yeah,
sad.
That sounds right. So, do we have anything else we want to say about this? I mean, this is, like I said, a very theory-heavy chapter. Like, at least there's bits of all kinds of other theories and things going on that converge in this chapter, even though there's not a whole lot going on here. But, Stoneheart and possible Jane Westerling switch and all that. But I think we've covered all that.
Oh, I have something.
Yeah, what do you got?
So Edwin Frey, the guy whose dad just died, says, this is really strange that they were able to hang my father. They must have known he was heading to the Twins with a small party.
Because of Tom.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Tom was there when Jaime told him in the last chapter, get the fuck out of here, go back to the Twins.
Yep.
So, yeah. I thought that was cool. It's a nice
detail. And then Tom's going to overwinter there, so
almost...
everyone's going to die, right?
Yep.
A lot of people think there's going to be a Red Wedding 2.0 or the Revenge Wedding.
Maybe the coronation of Blackwalder as the new Lord, and then everyone
dies. This time it's stark serious.
On that note, let's move forward to the first Arya chapter from Dance, which is actually called The Blind Girl. And Zander, do you have that for us?
The blind girl wakes up, licking her lips, remembering her dream of hunting sheep, shepherd, and dogs, as well as notes game is more scarce since the snows. As the blind girl gets up and prepares for her day, she went through her morning prayer. But it wasn't her prayer, it was the night wolf's prayer. She was no one. Continuing her morning routine, she dresses, makes her way to the kitchens, and notes dream feasting does not sustain her. The kindly man enters to ask, "And who are you this morning?" "No one," she lies poorly. Then he then teases her and asks if she'd like her eyes back, which she did each morning, and she always denied. The kindly man then asks where she was begging the night before, what 3 new things she had learned, and gave her small lessons of wisdom. The blind girl almost blurted out that it was snowing in the Riverlands, but that was someone else. She recalls a lesson from the waif of poisons, as well as language lessons. She understood Bravosi and could manage a conversation, but the kindly man insists she must work harder on her High Valyrian and the languages of Lys and Pentos. In the evening, she played the lying game, which was more difficult without eyes. Much of her duties were the same, albeit with some issues getting accustomed to the blindness. She was learning how to use all her other senses to make up for the lack of one. As she was about her duties, an acolyte has a duel of the staffs with her, teasing the whole time. After some time, she then goes begging, taking in everything she hears in hopes of learning 3 new things. When she was done learning and was back at the House of Black and White, during the kindly man's regular questioning, her third new truth is that she knows who's hitting her during the duels she encounters. And for this, I just wanted to read the quote that's at the end of the chapter. The priest winced and snatched his hand back. And how could a blind girl know that? I saw you. I gave you 3. I don't need to give you 4. Maybe on the morrow she would tell him about the cat that had followed her home last night from Pinto, the cat that was hiding in the rafters, looking down on them. Or maybe not. If he could have secrets, so could she.
Yeah, this is my favorite bit of this chapter is like the cat warging, like the casual cat warging, because she's blind and like not really even making a big deal out of it. But I do like how she's like, well, fuck it, maybe I won't tell him about this cat.
Yeah, and it's even better because it's literally just that paragraph I wrote is all the information George ever gives about her skin changing a cat.
Yeah, other than the dreams or whatever, but...
I like the language he uses in Pinto's bar, where Arya is sitting alone at a table, and I think she can smell the patrons. And then the language shifts, and it feels like she can see them, and then she realizes the cat is on her lap. It's just a nice seamless way to get us into the idea of her warging this cat, or unconsciously warging.
Yeah, and that as we are reading it, that's as she's realizing it and as it's happening for her. Like, does that make sense? Like,
as we experience it, it's the same for her.
Yeah.
So I think that this moment holds a clue for Arya's final fate. Symbolically in this chapter, she's using the power of the first men, or the power of warging, to overcome the faceless men, their training, because normally she would have to wait a lot longer when she was blind, but she gets to circumvent it with her warging. So I think this will, if we ever get a dream of spring, this will play a role in how she's able to elude the faceless men when they come after her, because I also have a feeling the faceless men do not tolerate rogue agents.
I mean, those are 2 huge assumptions that we get a dream of spring and the faceless men come after her.
Well, I'll ask you guys, do you think she's going to have a split with the faceless men? She's going to come back to Arya?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think she'll leave. I don't know how it's going to be, if it's going to be because she doesn't finish her training or because she does finish her training, Yeah,
I agree. In my mind, it's more that she will leave rather than she will run away from them. Like,
it's going to be like a Luke in Empire situation where she's like, I see you far away, like my friends are suffering, I have to go save them.
Yeah.
But Arya, your training isn't complete.
What accent was that?
Oh, come on, that's
Welsh.
Ringo.
I have a feeling that unlike Yoda, the faceless men aren't going to be as forgiving of Arya for leaving and potentially coming back. I don't know what'll happen.
I think
it's all about the level that she's at, right? Like, I mean, if you're a Scientologist, you can leave if you're at a low level, right? Isn't that
allegedly.
You're free to leave when you're a slave.
They like to.
But once you're past a certain point,
once you're a Grand Wizard, like that's like whoa.
Once you learn their secrets.
About Lord Zemu, the Emperor of the Galaxy.
God damn it!
Yeah,
Michael.
once you've been read in, that's a bit much.
Like, I literally have no clue what Scientology is. Like, I know it's a religion, but I'm just like,
it's not.
I don't know what they believe. Like,
All right.
I know it's a book,
Oh.
and the author was just like, it's not real, but like,
Yeah, there's great documentaries on it if you want to check those out. There's one on HBO that's really good. Anyway,
pressing forward. I think, and we'll see it in the next chapter. Like, we don't know what the fuck the Faceless Men are up to anyway. Like, maybe Arya.
I feel like sometimes they don't know what they're up to, right?
Well, that's the thing. I think they do. We just don't.
But sometimes it feels like they give the gift kind of like, oh yeah, sure, I'll give the gift to this guy today. Like this person's asking, sure. And then other times it feels like it's part of a larger plan.
Well, yeah.
Maybe
because they're
like,
murder for hire. So it's like, it's convenient for them to be like, yes, this guy deserves it today. And like, because their enemy gave us a bunch of money or gave us whatever it is, whatever payment we required.
Their life of servitude. It's the Golden Company, right? Which is the Blackfires.
Yes.
Cool. It might be that they're actually like the Golden Company, whereas this is our front, but this is the end goal we're actually working towards. Yes, we'll do other things, but this is our goal. Potentially, but we don't know what their goal is, which means like theory out of thin air, sure. But which could be it.
I mean, I would like to think that their goal is to like kill all the Valyrians, but they would have done that by now, so I don't know. What's taking them so long.
I think they're fine with Valyrians as long as they don't start enslaving people. Because, the fact that they just let the Targaryens live for like 400 years, I think is significant.
Yeah, and they're not the only Valyrian house. Like, we know that, and it doesn't seem like they're getting, executed. So I'm not really sure what their end game is. We kind of get like the Maesters that like there should be no magic in this world, and that's what their prerogative is. And I'd figure that the Faceless Men would be sympathetic to that.
Well, it's implied that they use magic as well, some sort of blood magic for their face changing. So I don't know how anti-magic you can be.
But they're different sorts of magic.
It ain't no cheap-ass glamour.
Maybe.
It's the best.
Ain't no cheap-ass glamour should be the buffer.
Should be the title.
But I do like watching Arya kind of go through her paces with the game of like trying to figure out, well, what's new information? And like, well, the Sea Lord of Braavos is still sick. Like, well, that's not new. Ah, shit, She like tried to cheat on her homework,
Oh no, I love that too because she talks about that and he's like, yeah, that's not new news, and she's like, all right, well, he is gonna die. That's new,
Yeah, but isn't that like just regular prophecy? It's like, Zander, I see in your future you're going to die. Like, you could say that,
well,
and it's open-ended.
Well,
I think,
but it is kind of hard.
Whole game
her,
is like the new news.
Yeah,
it was easier when she had her eyes because like it's hard to observe and take things in like when she can't see. That's why like the cat helps. But like if I were her, I'd be like, what did you know today you didn't know yesterday? It's hard going down that street blind. Well, now it's hard going down the other street blind. Fuck you. Like, you know what I mean?
Interesting to hear about some of the wildlings that were taken as slaves, but then they ended up in Braavos.
I had a question about this more like, in your mind, would it be better to go as a slave or to become a white? Like,
aren't you a slave either way?
I know, but I kind of think if you became a slave, a regular slave, you still have control over your body, and you can, if you die somewhere else, you will actually be dead forever. And you aren't being used as a puppet, which I personally would kind of prefer. And you can also see if you can try to get out of it or escape.
You have a chance at freedom, whereas with whites, You're locked in.
Yeah, and you know that you should not be killing any of your loved ones. And you can always still die and like commit suicide, which is horrible, but like there's still always that escape as well.
You have the gift of death, as the Faceless Men would say.
Yeah.
But then again, you'd be dead. You're not, I don't think you're conscious, like, so.
But it's also like, would you consider it a violation of your body?
No. I don't think so. No more than like worms crawling through me or something being a violation.
I don't know. This is why I asked, because I'm just like, I don't know which would be better or worse.
I would definitely take the slavery option. Like, the way the White Walkers and the others are treated is like they're the worst thing ever. They are literally anti-human. Not that slavery is a humanist policy or anything, but again.
Not at all, but you might have a good master.
You might. You might have like a horrible one.
Which is also very true, but as well, like, you would definitely have a horrible death if you became a white. But you could also have a horrible life if you became a slave.
Well, that's a gamble we all make, right? Slaves or not, we could have shit lives or awesome lives.
It reminds me of Tyrion when he says, you know, I prefer life over death because life is full of possibilities, whereas death is so finite and certain.
It's true.
Very true.
All right.
Actually,
so, Arya, blind girl.
I had a slightly more positive note. You know the young dead men she finds in the House of Black and White? He has curly hair and has coins from Westeros. In my notes, I'm just like, do you think he's the missing Lannister who died? That was a young man who was married to the baby from the Red Fire.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know.
Tyrek Lannister, yeah.
Wait a minute. Why would Tyrek be in the House of the Undying? Or not House of the Undying.
Because he was captured by the Faceless Men so that they could use him at some point in the future?
Maybe, but then you wouldn't just leave him lying around. But as well, do you think he got on a ship to escape the riots and was just like, I don't care where you're going, I'll just come too?
No, I think Varys ate him in his Merling hideaway in the Blackwater Bay.
Yes.
I don't know. I think he's dead. I think if he was going to come back, I feel like he would have showed up by now.
What? He showed up just now on a table.
right. He's here in Arya's chapter. All right. On that note, shall we move ahead? Let's see. Our next chapter is Sam 5 from Feast, which is the final Feast chapter of Sam after a long journey and the death of Maester Aemon, finally arriving in Old Town. And Michael, do you have our recap on that?
Yes, I do. All right, let's get into this. The Cinnamon Wind arrives at Old Town after being hounded by Ironborn raiders. Sam learns that many outlying towns and fortifications have been captured from the raids, under the command of a mysterious Iron Man using the symbol of a red eye imposed with 2 crows, and that Old Town does not have the ships to resist the Ironborn until the Redwind fleet returns from Dragonstone. Lord Leighton Hightower has not descended from his tower in over a decade, and it is said that he is consulting spells with his daughter, Melora the Mad Maid. Sam arrives at the Citadel of the Maesters and is made to wait at the Seneschal's court for an extended period of time because he did not bribe the Acolyte. He is encountered by Alaris the Sphinx, who is interested in Sam's information. After hearing Sam's story and Maester Aemon's plea for help for Daenerys and the Night's Watch, Alaris decides to take him to Archmaester Marwyn. Sam notices a Valyrian steel candle that is lit within Marwyn's chambers. They discuss the properties and abilities of these candles, and it is revealed that Marwyn was able to anticipate Sam's presence and arrival. After hearing Sam's story again, he advises Sam to repeat this information to no one at the Citadel for risk of his life. He refers to the Maesters as the Grey Sheep, who are building a world which has no place for prophecies, magic, or dragons. He implies that the Maesters were responsible for the extinction of the dragons, and says that they could never trust Maester Aemon because of his Targaryen blood. Marwyn discusses the fickle nature of prophecy, but thinks that Daenerys may represent the culmination of several of them, and decides he must go to her before the Maesters can reach her first. He tells Sam to forge his chain and forge it quickly, and entrusts Alleris to look after him. Sam is shown to his quarters in the Raven's Tower by a strange pasty boy who refers to himself as Pate, like the pig boy. And that's the end of A Feast for Crows.
Dun, dun, dun,
Dun, dun, dun. And just as Feast of Crows began, it ends with Pate.
Good old Pate.
But is it
Like
Pate?
the pig boy.
I think
The fact that he identifies himself as like the pig boy is something that obviously Pate would never do, because he hated that name. So I think this is a clear indication that this is faceless Pate.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's
But also,
Jaken.
it's not a very good faceless man if he's going around doing stuff that the actual person hated. It's more like,
well, he's playing a role, and he's got to play the role to whatever end that we'll find out when we get Winds of Winter.
but he's not playing the role well if he gets discovered because he's not acting the same way as that person did.
I think it's a clue of sorts that, like, you get some of the memories when you put someone's face on, but not all of them. And Sam even notices in this chapter there was something a bit off about Pate. So, like, you can take someone's face, but you can't completely mimic someone's personality.
Yeah. Exactly.
Something I did not realize only on this reread was that Pate was in the chamber when Sam was telling his story to Marwyn. So he now knows all of this information, which I think is very interesting.
That is, I like the glass candles. What's going on there? What? And also, if they're so prophetic, why did Sam have to wait so long?
Because plot.
Because plot.
Sorry.
Marwyn was using the candle to look at some other things first.
He's
realized.
jerking off to the candle.
Yeah, Westeros doesn't have Pornhub, so, you know.
So it's Candle Hub?
Yeah. He's watching the Hightower woman do spells or something.
Yeah, I don't think he wants anyone to see his candle history.
All the best incest porn is filmed in King's Landing.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, that's 100% true. I think it's been true for a long time.
Well, before it was King's Landing, it was Castle Rock. Let's be clear.
Well, but before that, it was King's Landing with all the Targaryens.
Yeah. So what's going on with the Hightowers, guys?
They're
Are they gonna,
crazy.
come into the story more, or
I sure hope so.
If you read the end of A Feast for Crows, the appendix bit, there's a whole page on House Hightower, and it goes on and talks about their history and stuff like that, which makes me think absolutely we're going to be seeing more of the Hightowers in Winds of Winter.
I mean, they're kind of like the Danes, where they've been built up that you kind of have to expect them to show up and have some importance.
Will they never show up because they've been built up so much? In that it will only be in very small things.
No, I feel for it to be satisfying, we have to see them. I feel like there's going to be some sort of encounter with Euron involving lots of weird magic.
That'll be fun. I hope so.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with all the Ironborn focus towards Old Town right now, or at least at the end of where we're at, we're definitely going to see a couple of them.
Because as well, why does Euron want Old Town? Why?
Magic.
Michael,
Exactly.
what are you looking at in Feast for Crows that shows the High Towers? Because I only find them underneath House Tyrell in the appendix.
No, there should be maybe you've got a crappier edition than mine.
Hey.
But there should be an entire page that just talks about House Hightower.
Yeah,
I got
thought I saw
rebels
it
and rogues,
as well.
small folk, and sworn brothers, and then beyond the narrow sea.
Give me a moment. I'm pretty sure I saw it earlier as well.
And their symbol is obviously the lighthouse with fire on top.
Oh, the house is great.
Which, when they showed that on the show, I don't know if you're show watchers, it looked fucking impressive. I loved it. Like, I think it did. The show did the High Tower justice.
If you have the same page book as me, it's page 809. It's under the other houses, great and small section.
809? My appendixes start in like the 1000.
You must have the American edition.
Obviously.
So it's better and bigger.
Obviously, Americans are blind.
Yeah, mine, meanwhile, back at the wall is at 977.
Well,
I love reading that now. It's so hilarious and sad. In a few months, I'll be releasing the next book.
So who actually? I got into the series like when Dance was already out. Did anyone do the weights?
Nope.
Yes, it was terrible.
Oh boy.
Which, oddly enough, this one's longer though.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine like actually starting this in '96 and being into it.
Look, I was so lucky to have like seen this show coming on and been like, Sean Bean, what's going on? I read an article, I watched like the first episode, and I think it was like maybe the second episode.
Here it is.
And then I started reading spoilers, and then I like immediately was like, well, I gotta go read these books. And then like Dance was out, like, you know, like what, right at the end of the first season or during the first season or something. So like I didn't have to wait for anything, but you know, now it's
Didn't
been
Dance come out in
some time.
2012,
2011.
2013?
No, it was the summer of
2011.
2011. It was I think it was like right after.
I remember.
By the time I was ready for it, it was already out. By the time I'd read through the other books.
Probably.
Guys,
because I remember one of my friends going and buying it straight after school, but I wasn't reading it then. And yes, Matt?
The Hightower House words are, "We light the way."
And
You
we
sure?
don't leave the tower.
No, they're lighting the way for Euron to come and find them and kill them, obviously.
No.
They clearly have a basement full of like electronics and stuff hooked up to the internet, and they're just like, we're not leaving. It's like
They have they
yeah.
have all of the obsidian candles there, and they're
It's
like,
a nuclear
yeah, we gotta-
silo.
They're just playing a live D&D game with Westeros. They can't leave.
Did we talk about Jaime's vision of presumably his mother or not?
No, we didn't, actually.
Way to go, Michael.
No, I was just like, oh yeah, obsidian candle, and I'm just like, did we talk about it? But it sort of works because this chapter explains more what they are, so then we can understand the Jaime chapter, which, like, in the book is the chapter right before the Sam one.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Michael. I forgot that actually Sarah covered that chapter. Way to go, Sarah.
Oh, what, you thought I was being...
Way to go, Matt.
Way to go, me.
I'm
But
sorry.
yeah,
I was looking at the wrong page of my notes.
Some people think that Quaithe used a glass candle, this might not have happened yet, to visit Dany in Marine when she's having her bath.
Yeah, because Quaithe also says that the glass candles are burning, and reminds Dany that the glass candles are burning, which I don't think we actually know about glass candles until maybe this chapter.
There may have been a reference in A Clash of Kings. I would need to go reread it, but it's one of the last things Zaro said when he's like, all these weird things are happening in Karth now.
Oh, like where the turtles are walking backwards or whatever?
The
all the weird
grass is
shit.
like spreading. And...
Huh. Does anyone think that Alaris is not Sorella, one of the sand snakes?
Speak up now, and I'll rip you to pieces. I mean, no. All theories
obviously
are
R
welcome
plus
here.
L equals D. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is 100% cut and dried. Like,
Yeah, of all the
Totally
like,
Voldemort and Tom Marvello Riddle style.
yeah, of all
at least
the
that
like,
was a what do you call it? An anagram. This is just backwards.
Yeah.
I know.
This is a lazy anagram.
No, they added the Sphinx. It's different. Okay.
what were you saying, Zander?
I was just, God, just that like of all the like suspicious characters of like who might be who or whatever, this is like the most blatant one.
Yeah.
Especially with the line Doran has about playing her games in Old Town or something along those lines. And then you see this and you're like, oh, that's the same fucking name, you know?
Yeah, it's not even like hidden, I think. So.
Well, I'm embarrassed to bring this up, but if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't realize it.
No, I'm so dumb that when I read that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, and here's all the evidence. Okay, yeah, I get it. But yeah, I would totally not have picked up on that.
Matt, you're busy keepking track of 150 other characters.
I'm not that busy. I'll tell you what.
This with all the phrase, I need like a grid or a chart or something because I'm just like Frey, okay, and then they say something and I'm like, oh, the one who did this, okay. I don't pay attention to any of their names. I'm just
There's
like,
Blackwalder and all the people Blackwalder's gonna kill. That's how I group the phrase.
That's exactly how I group the phrase
And
as
everyone
well.
that Blackwalder has banged for the lady.
Right. Everyone who Blackwalder's banged and Gatehouse Amy because she's her own thing.
Oh.
because her name is so distinctive and it's not Walder or Walder. I'm sorry.
You know what I love about the phrase the most is that like so Walder Frey is Walder Frey, and I mean he probably named a kid or two, you know, Walder and all that, and you have all these Walders and Waldas.
Walder Jr.
But most
Walder
of
Jr.
it's not like George Foreman being like naming all of his kids George. A lot of this is his children and relatives being like, I'm gonna gain favor by naming my kid Walda, and he's probably like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? I got like 20 Waldos.
Could you imagine?
Stop it.
Someone should call their kid Waldo, and then we can just joke about, oh, where's Waldo? The whole time. That's what I started
Waldo
cracking
Frey.
up about. I said Waldo.
The title of this episode is going to be "Where's Waldo Frey?"
But yeah, the novelty wears off.
Yeah, and I mean, like they're doing it to like curry favor, you know, with Grandpa, but it doesn't matter. They should be like cultivating the next heirs because he's not long for this world.
Maybe
Can you imagine? Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say maybe be a decent person, and you know then Walder Frey would actually notice you. But nah, just name your kids Walder. That's the smart way.
No, it's don't be a decent person. Be like Black Walder, and then everyone notices you.
No, you don't need to be a decent person or a bad person. You just have to like gain like prestige and renown for House Frey. Like if you do something to make House Frey look better to the other lords, then he cares. I think that's what it is, because he's got like, you know, the little lord complex.
Ooh,
Is it like West?
A great house. That's the best option. Do that. So be like what? Jenna Lannister's hubby, Emmon Frey? Be Emmon Frey.
Who we just
Right.
met.
Yes. And who's going to die over the winter. Yay!
So, getting back to the chapter, the meat of it is we see Archmaester Marwyn for the first time, and he obviously drops a bunch of truth bombs about maesters or anti-magic, maesters kill the dragons, Maesters are up to something. I guess this is like the first half of the Grand Maester conspiracy, of which exists in many forms. What do you guys think of all this information we get in this chapter?
I think it's important that everyone look at the Venn diagram I posted in the chat.
It's a Venn diagram. Happy.
The internet did not fail me when I put in Game of Thrones Venn diagram of characters who want to bone someone with a bigger part.
It just...
Well, I'll tell you what I thought when I first met Maester Marwyn. I sort of interpreted this as when Bran has his dream and Maester Luwin is saying, oh, no, it's just a dream. And then he goes to Osha, who's like, oh, this is definitely like prophetic and stuff. And so I sort of interpreted what Marwyn was saying in the same light, like the Maesters are always wrong. But, I can see the Venn diagram now. God damn it, Matt, you're taking your topic. Characters who want to bone someone with a bigger part.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. Liza Aaron doesn't have that bigger part. Why would Baelish want to bone her? Sorry.
Who does Zaro Zohan Daxos want to bone? Because he's gay.
Men, obviously.
Salador said.
He's trying to get with Daenerys in that storyline, but yeah, he doesn't seem to be into it too much.
Anyway, sometimes the internet is a horrible, hateful place, and then sometimes it gives you Venn diagrams like this that are just
They
silly.
should have matched characters up with who they're trying to bone, because I'm going, what are these characters trying to bone? Like Gendry, who's Gendry trying to bone? Mel?
I think we know.
Arya.
Yeah, but like, Arya's trying to bone Gendry, not the other way around, really.
Gendry wants to smash Melisandre?
And
But Gendry's
yeah.
not big
That's a good
in
one.
Mel's, at least in the beginning.
Doesn't he want to bone Cersei in the beginning too?
Lancel?
Yeah, Kettle Blacks, Moon Boy for all I know.
Lancel eventually doesn't want to bone anybody.
Well, not anymore.
He did, and he succeeded.
He did. He had one job, and he fucking did it, didn't he? And now he's like
Yeah, now it's sad.
taken to religion.
Are the stars just on the show? Because they have Roz on here, and I'm just like, Roz isn't a book character, she's a show character.
Yeah, they have
think that's why
Yara
there's an
/ Asha
asterisk.
too.
You forgot you forgot Roz's POV.
Yeah. Anywho, Michael, you were saying something about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, Marwyn. So when I first read this, I was like, Marwyn's definitely right. I believe everything he says. But on a reread, I now think that maybe he's a bit biased, and like he's certainly got a kernel of truth. But when he says the Maesters killed the dragons, this was back when we didn't have any of the history, and we now know that, well, the dragons killed dragons. I don't really see how the Maesters could be responsible for this.
They split up House Targaryen and made them fight themselves. It has been foretold.
Maybe if they advised Aegon III to put them under the dungeons, because that's where the dragons go after the dragon pit is destroyed, and that led to them dying. But I don't know, it's a bit vague and indirect.
I think it's more they took advantage of an opportunity they saw with the decline of the dragons and just their general influence on the realm.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Mm.
Many people have said this, but it's like an interesting philosophy of the Maesters being anti-magic when there is clearly magic in the world. Like they're denying magic's existence while also trying to suppress it at the same time. It's very, very strange.
Isn't that normal human behavior?
Well, we don't have magic in our world. I'm sorry, Sarah, but Santa Claus isn't real.
Hey!
What?
Younger
Don't
listeners.
break my dreams. I wanted to meet Santa so much. Could you imagine if kids listen to this and they actually believe Michael, you destroyed their whole life.
Matt, does your baby listen to this?
My baby, I don't know if she understands, but I already called a fellow driver a TWAT on the way home from the hospital, so she was introduced to filth pretty quickly.
Oh, a twat?
Yeah, thank you. For people
Spelling is hard.
Normal.
But yeah, Marwan's an interesting dude. He's first sort of introduced in a Game of Thrones a million years ago when he was mentoring Miri Mazdur. So he comes with a black reputation.
Yeah. Which is why, like, I don't entirely buy the whole, like, oh, I just fucked up Jane Westerling's hips. Like, you know, like, if he's doing a callback at this point to something vaguely mentioned in a line by Miriam Mazdur and I think Jorah in a convo with them, like, he plans stuff.
He
I feel
certainly
like
does, and he probably doesn't want to reveal it, but I kind of buy his excuse there. I still don't think that means that even if he maybe didn't intend that, like maybe after all this time, he's like, yeah, she's pregnant. I still think we don't know what's going to happen there. Because, like, why would he tell us for sure what's going to happen before the books are out?
On later editions, they actually removed the hips parts from...
Yeah, that's the part that really got me.
What?
That's the big thing, so it must have been a mistake.
Yeah, and see with the Marwan being...
Go on, Zander. Talk about the chapter.
Well, with the Marwan thing, I feel like that, like, he could have just, like, went back to Game of Thrones and he was like, oh, what was that name I used? Oh, yeah, Marwan, perfect. Let's make this character. Whereas, like, the hips thing could be an accident or whatever, but, like, I know when I first read it, the hips thing, I was just like, oh, it's just Jaime being a dumb man in this misogynistic world. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, her boobs look like apples, so, yeah.
What do apple boobs look like?
So Marwan the mage.
I really like the fact that Marwan's just like, yeah, don't tell anyone here unless you want to be dead. About the whole...
serious.
How quickly does he think that Sam can actually forge his links? Because it sounds like, like, dude, get it done in like a month. And, like, we know that people like Pate was there for like a long time before and didn't even have a link yet.
Yeah, but Pate was an idiot.
That's fair.
Plus, think about how much reading Sam has done over his lifetime. So he might have a really good background knowledge.
Maybe you saw it in the glass candle.
Maybe.
But yeah, I don't think it's feasible that Sam will forge a chain and be a maester in any of, like, the upcoming books. This might be his future path, like, where he continues to be a maester.
He might... Sorry, you finish, Michael, and then I'll...
No, that's basically what I was going to say. He might, continue, because I have a feeling that the Night's Watch may not be around after certain events happen.
Very long. He might choose to focus on the things he knows will be useful straight away. So the magic one for sure. And the healing one, like, do that. People need to not die, so get that one, please. And do those sorts of ones first that are very practical. And then for what is happening, because otherwise the magic one isn't very practical, but regarding what's happening in the story, get the magic one.
In the future, it will be, definitely.
Yeah. And then he can go back and finish it later. And get them later, but get what's most practical and you need first. It's like playing a video game. You know?
Level up the important stuff first.
Yep. And then worry about all of the other crap.
So
everything else
and you come back and it's easier to do.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen with Gilly? I know Sam thinks to send her to Horn Hill, but now Marwan's hopping on the boat that she's staying on right now.
I don't think she's going to go on a wild ride with Marwan. I think she'll be getting off that boat.
But that's so much fun, and the people on the boat say, Yeah, she can stay. She's fine. She doesn't.
Yeah, they
need as
like the
much
little
as
baby too.
They're just like, Gilly, you can come live with us forever. I'm sorry. I keep having.
I mean, she is
moments.
objectively pretty cool, so.
Yeah, and they're obviously just like originally it was just like, hey, want to stay for this trip, and then it's just like, hey, want to stay forever? Hey.
And
I
just
have
so you know, you don't have a choice. Oh, let's something we kind of related to the boats here is the Hardhome slaves that she finds out about. The
We kind of talked
wildling
about
slaves. We talked about them a little bit, but
we talked about whether or not we would do it.
how many of them are coming back as on boats? Like,
oh, the slavers themselves.
Yeah.
Potentially, this is actually interesting because Mother Mole had the prophecy that a great fleet will come and take them away. Now, there were only 2 ships that took them as slaves, and then the Night's Watch come with like 11 ships, but all of them are like floundered.
That's not.
There are dead things in the water. No.
Yeah, very spooky. But yeah, I do wonder if a 3rd fleet of like slaver ships will come and fulfill this prophecy.
Yeah, because word is out. That's what I was thinking.
Which, like, thank God, because I feel so sad because there were thousands there, but only a few hundred went on those 2 ships. So there's still thousands of people hoping for someone to come
and it was all women and children
that got taken on the ships.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it needs to happen soon because we're told that they're eating their own dead pretty soon. Like, they're getting pretty hungry.
Yeah, but also, like, how long can you eat your own dead before they turn into whites?
That's called indigestion.
We also kind of still need to talk about the Jaime chapter with the candles. Like, actually talk about Jaime and candles. And I wrote down the whole quote. So, okay, so Magic Woman, dressed as a Silent Sister in grey, hair of spun gold, green eyes, and is either 15 or 50. He can't tell because he's obviously super blind, let's be honest. Okay, so Magic Lady asks, will you forget your own Lord Father too? I wonder if you ever knew him truly. He could never abide being laughed at. That was the thing he hated most. Jaime then asks, who are you? And the weird lady retorts, the question is, who are you? Sorry. I have it
The
down in my notes as a Rafiki moment from The Lion King.
Oh, I thought that was the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland.
Quite possibly, but like it is a very classic line. Okay. And then Magic Lady says, we all dream of things we cannot have. Tywin dreamed of this. Or Tywin, rather than at all other points, it's your father, not Tywin. Dreamed that his son would be a great knight, that his daughter would be a queen. He dreamed they would be so strong and brave and beautiful that no one would ever laugh at them. Jaime says, I am a knight and Cersei is a queen. And
she cries a single tear.
Cries. Just one, because she's like that.
So are you questioning whether this is his mother or...
In the recap it says it is Joanna, which I do think is potentially very true, but it's more the whole question about who are you that she asks him. So obviously there's something big there that Jaime needs to question himself about. And there's the whole fact that Jaime's father is only referred to as your Lord Father up until she specifically is talking about Tywin. So this, I think, does lead credence to...
Oh, no.
Sorry, I'm looking in the chat. I'm sorry. That it does actually lead credence to Cersei and Jaime not being Tywin's children. which I know we've talked about so much, but yeah.
I think it reads better just as being an embodiment of Jaime's identity crisis.
Yeah, it's an existential anxiety.
And who does he want to be? Because at the moment as well, Tywin's dreamt that his children would be a queen and a knight, and that would be strong and brave and beautiful, and no one would ever laugh at them. And let's be honest, like, Jaime has been laughed at as the Kingslayer. He's now handless and can't even bloody well fight. Cersei and Jaime have been fucking each other for years, and now everyone knows about it, and they've had 3 children from their incestuous relationship. And then there's Tyrion, who's now a drunk and was born as an imp, which he did get teased at and laughed about so much because of it. Like,
I think he was a drunk before.
Yeah, but it got a lot worse. But like, it's.
But yeah, I do think. Again, this is tied to Jaime's entire arc since A Storm of Swords. You know, the boy had wanted to be Arthur Dayne, but he had somehow ended up the Smiling Knight. All of that stuff. And what I think is interesting about this dream is Jaime, like, he looks at his hands and he very specifically says, you know, I always have 2 hands in my dream. So I do wonder if this is like a genuinely supernatural occurrence where the ghost of his mother is visiting him.
I don't think it's his ghost, because right after this chapter is the Sam chapter with the dragon glass candles, and it says in that chapter that you can send yourself into someone's dreams.
But who would be doing that?
I do think someone, his mother, obviously, or
so his mother's dead.
Do you think Joanna's still alive?
No, but the thing is, it doesn't necessarily have to be her. It could be a faceless woman. It could be Quaithe. It could literally be someone else doing it. But
I mean, it could be. But I just feel it's a lot stronger if this is the ghost of his mother in some sort of supernatural occurrence that's tied to Jaime's arc.
Yeah.
How is Myrcella meant to be?
Myrcella is about 9 or 10.
Okay, too young to be playing old lady.
She's got a glass candle down in.
Oh my God! Does she have a glass candle?
15 or 50, so it's more like who would look roughly like that and be around that age.
Well,
maybe it's Tyrion's daughter Joy.
Maybe it's the woman in the high tower that's casting spells.
Ooh, that'd be fun. I'm down for that. Did we ever see Joanna Lannister's body? No, she's alive.
No, it died off screen, so maybe, you know who she is? She's Septa Lenore, and Tyrion wants to bang his own mom in an Oedipal kind of twist of fate.
Oedipus complex. Yep.
There
Sounds
it is.
about right. Oh.
So while we are still talking about glass candles, something I wanted to bring up is I do wonder if Sam is going to learn how to use a glass candle, and this will allow him to communicate with various people across Westeros. And this will, like, I do wonder if he spends the rest of the story in Old Town and that he is just able to,
You know what? I just realized that we do hear about glass candles, I think maybe in a Game of Thrones from Master Lewin. And the test is like, you know, they sit you in a room with the glass candles and you try to light it and you cut up your hands and like you realize like humility and wisdom.
It's like studying the mysteries, right?
Right.
That's what the maesters now have taken from it.
Right.
I think that's in the prologue of A Feast for Crows.
It's definitely mentioned though, like somewhere, but it is.
Right.
But...
So we did get mention of the glass candles before, so I guess it bookends this entire book, huh? So they should mean something.
Like from a functional perspective, it would just allow certain characters to communicate that are separated by very large geographical distances, which As a writer, this would be very convenient. So I can see George using this.
They're like the Palantir in Lord of the Rings.
What? I'm not Lord of
The Seven Seeing Stones of Numenor, Sarah Adoy.
I've never read Lord of the Rings, so
I think we're about done here.
Yeah, you and Casey are on our next podcast called I've Never Read Lord of the Rings.
Sorry.
Although, so final thoughts on any of these chapters?
There's a mention of Lyness Hightower in this Sam 1. Do we all remember Lyness?
No, what did she do?
She was Jorah's wife.
Oh!
Yes.
Right.
The lady who just wanted fancy presents, who definitely should have not married Jorah Mormont.
A poor man, yeah. Isn't she living with like a rich guy across the sea?
Well, she's the concubine of the Archon of Lys, I believe.
Oh, you see? She's doing all right.
So yeah, one of the Hightowers went to her, and they're going to try and be nice now and get her to lend them some ships.
Oh. So do you guys think that the Ironborn are going to sack the Citadel or Old Town?
Definitely Old Town, which includes the Citadel. I feel like Old Town
with their
going
rainbow
down.
beards.
But the thing is, what do they want that is in Old Town? Because is it something in the Citadel, or is it something in Hightower itself?
I think they want the gold and riches of Old Town.
Well, but I think Euron has another goal. I think they just want to raid, obviously, but I think Euron is probably on a mission.
I agree with you, Adam. Like,
we discussed this a little bit in there's an upcoming cast on Euron, like kind of comparing the show and books, and this is something we discussed a little bit. Is that I think there's something's going to happen there, or there's something hidden there that he needs.
Old Town is implied to sort of not be a magical nexus, but if you read the history, the World of Ice and Fire, like the base of Hightower was
it's a black oil rock.
Yeah, so there's always been some sort of occult magical presence to Hightower, or Old Town and the Citadel.
Is that why the Citadel's there? To like counteract that magic?
Perhaps.
Who founded the Citadel? Do we know that?
Paramore Hightower, I believe. He was a younger brother, and he had a bunch of like pets. Like he would get learned men to come and talk to him about the world, and then when he died, they founded the Citadel.
Good stuff. All right.
Yeah, I do wonder if the High Tower does represent the tall tower Euron was talking about jumping off to see if he can fly. That's my final thought.
that would be
All
cool.
right.
My final thought is I think maybe it was the linear reread portion, but I forget. I think I did not like Feast for Crows, and then we reread it, and like every chapter I seem to kind of enjoy more this time around. I'm not sure if anyone else had that experience with Feast for Crows this time. I think
Feast Dance obviously helps, and like the linear format is kind of a version of the Feast Dance. But I don't know. I think Feast for Crows has kind of grown on me over the years. Like I actually recently, maybe 3 months ago, just read it straight through on its own. And then I still got to go read Dance again just on its own. And it's a different experience, but like there's a lot in these chapters, and I don't know. I think it's aged better than when it first came out, and people were really disappointed with not getting certain characters and not knowing what's going on. And having read Dance so much, I don't feel like I need to always do Feast Dance because like I know those chapters now.
But as well with Feast, is it more a lot of it's setup sort of stuff, and it's very explanatory chapters more than action-filled chapters, which I think Dance has more of, and that's possibly
But even Dance
why.
is another setup and to a climax that never came.
Yeah.
Yeah, and part of it depends on what you're into, and you know, I mean, like I like world building and I like learning this stuff. I mean, I like a slow pace sometimes in this kind of book. Like it's still engaging to me. Other books, you know, would lose me with this sort of stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think this kind of book works if he was writing at a faster clip.
Yeah,
Right.
and you hadn't been waiting years and then still had to go on and wait years anyway for another book.
Yeah.
And you
Like,
just had this one. Like,
let's say all the books are out and like someone coming to this series fresh, I don't think they have like a terrible opinion of Feast necessarily, because like they just go to Dance and they go to Winds and then they, you know, and they look back
Like,
and kind of see what's happened.
I liked Feast because I didn't have any weight. Like, I liked Feast, I think, more than I liked Dance because Feast had more of the characters I enjoyed. Whereas Dance, because, like, I don't overly like Danny and I don't terribly like John. Like, I think I dislike Danny more than I dislike John. But so I enjoyed Feast a lot more compared to Dance.
Yeah.
All right.
And let's look at our next episode coming up in the reread is going to be a wrap-up of Feast. And I believe you're going to be doing that, right, Sarah?
Yes, if you have any questions that you'd like answered that are based on characters whose storylines preferably end in Feast or story arcs that end in Feast, comment them down below or hit us up on the forums because I'll post something asking for people's comments soon. And then we can try to answer questions so we have stuff to talk about.
All right.
Yep. And then beyond that, our next chapters are going to be, let's see, still the end of May. And it's going to be Danny 6, Jaime 1, and Arya Hota, the Watcher, all Dance with Dragons. So if you're reading along at home, those will be the next readings. All right. Anybody have any podcasts coming out? Anything going on? I mean, we've got rereads and Game of Thrones content, and Con of Thrones is coming up here in a couple weeks. We'll probably have some stuff on that.
I think we're going to do a JFK Part 2 podcast. We're still working that out with FT Ward and Bina.
Nice.
I know this.
We just had the ASMR come out. The Pride podcast, I think, just came out.
It did. It came out today.
Yep. There's YouTube podcast coming. There's more another video game podcast coming. There's lots of stuff.
There's a TV show one coming, but I can't remember what show it is. But there is the Terror TV show. Is that one?
We wanted to do that because we want to compare the TV show to the book, but I don't know I think that's in podcast limbo.
Hasn't recorded yet.
But there's one that's recording in mid this month that is happening. Yeah.
Right.
Are we doing a Stranger Things one this season? Because
just finished our rewatch. Such an amazing show. Yeah. I forgot how.
Yeah, I'd be down to do a season 3 Stranger Things.
I would also
podcast. Absolutely. So maybe if we can fit that in, there's a lot happening in July, but I think we can probably find some space somewhere. So thanks guys for joining me here, and if you're following at home, you know, on YouTube, WordPress, I think we're on like Stitcher and what's the one we just
Spotify?
Spotify. We're on Spotify now. If you do your podcast on Spotify, I don't know how you do your podcasts, however you do them. You do you, and we'll do us. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks, Adam.
Bye.
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 I think initially this was probably going to be a fairly even gender split on the podcast, and not anymore. So, sorry, Sarah.
Well, people might come and join.
We're going to mansplain everything
it's okay,
to you.
Too Australian. Oh, God.
Well,
actually,
Sarah.
Jesus.
All right, I'm cutting all this out.
We're mansplaining over each other.
Oh, God. So let's just get into this, okay?
I was just like, oh, it's just Jaime being a dumb man in this misogynistic world. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Hmm.
I mean, her boobs look like apples, so yeah.
What do apple boobs look like? Google search.
They're like A cups. Like A cups.
No, apples are more than A cups. That'd be B cups.
Really?
Yeah, apples can grow very
They're
big.
not tiny apples. Like apples are
You
like
guys got some big apples wherever you're from. I don't know.
size on average here. Like
Is this-
round. Like yeah.
Welcome to
Is this where-
Applecast. Is it
this where
Red
you guys are gonna
Delicious or
mansplain?
Granny Smith?
No,
Well,
I'm
actually.
late because y'all don't know bras, obviously.
Sarah,
I don't
let me
know
tell you
anything
how
about
you're
bras.
wrong.
Michael, let me tell you, your fact is saving this podcast because I am not concentrating. So, thank you.
How do you like
Yeah,
them
see, that looks
apples?
small. Those apples look small to me. I don't know.
Oh my god.
It's no grapefruit.
Jesus, that's a terrifying apple. No, in the video, I'm sorry, but Adam, you should like link these pictures to be like the Venn diagram, the apple picture, just so you
God.
understand.
Those apples
looks
look like a butt.
Yeah, I was about
It's
to
like
say.
that looks like a butt. They will be in the YouTube video.
That will just be circling the entire hour and a half podcast. The Venn diagram and 2 pictures of apples. That
Yeah,
look like-
so I put this stuff in the YouTube videos oftentimes, but I don't usually sync it up so well with where it should actually go. Sometimes I'm better than others, but it'll be in there somewhere. Probably towards the end.
Yay. That'll be fun. But yeah, I don't know.
So let's continue with what is the chart here then? What is the chart of fruit to cup size as women go? What equates to what?
My goodness.
Oh,
I'm just curious.
Like the thing is, obviously, apples in our countries are completely different sizes. If Michael and I are going, oh yeah, easy B, and then you guys are like, no, that's an A. So obviously they're tiny.
We must
So,
have hormone-induced apples.
But
I'm
they're
just thinking of the way
really
guys refer to them anyway. So I don't know.
What the hell is that?
What is going on? Oh my god!
What?
Aftershow.
Jesus Christ, welcome to VOC, where we go
lots of
off topic
Aftershow.
incredibly.
I think this is the Apple Show, and then no
Now-
one will
now
get it
you
until
see,
they actually start listening.
Those
Like,
look like
what
huge
is
apples, but that's a tiny cutting board, so it's deceptive.
That's like normal apple size here, easily, right, Michael? Are you still here?
Yeah, sure.
sorry.
Oh, there are no plums. Am I right, guys?
Well, now plum boobs. All right, fine. I'll Google image search those.
All right, where were we? Let's get back on.
Barwin
Let's
the
get back
Mage.
on.
But
on
yeah,
track
I
here. Barwin,
really
yeah.
enjoy.
Oh, plum boobs are very naked pictures coming up. Not
Oh
safe
my
for work.
God.
Not Google plum boobs.
No,
Yeah.
I've tried to start reading The Hobbit, but I can't get past, I think, page 20 because he spends so long describing a goddamn door and food, and I'm just like, can we
Blasphemy!
get somewhere, please?
But
Ugh.
he's describing the comfy hobbit hole.